In no other profession are you preparing and running like 4 tutorials a day in front of a total of like 100 students across the day. And you're just expected to be on and like excellent. Like you have to be switched on the entire time. You have to control their attention and their behavior. And on top of that, you have to be aware of pastoral concerns.
Yes.
And then you also have to get them to learn stuff. And if you're in secondary school, they're hormonal.
Save our Sundays, no more Monday blues.
Welcome back to Save Our Sundays, the podcast where we build My Teacher Aid version 3 in public and try to give teachers their weekends back. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jacob.
And today we're talking about how teachers can use AI for better teaching basics. The question we're asking today is not just, can AI save time? It's what time is actually worth saving? Because some of the work is admin, formatting, and drafting, but some of the work is teaching itself. But before we get into that, Jacob, how was your week?
It was actually pretty good.
What'd you get up to?
There was some late nights, work. But on Friday, I did a bit of professional development. So I teach secondary, but I went to this PD on primary literacy. Something that we are seeing at the moment is secondary students coming in and not having the basic literacy skills that you want them to have.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm having to deal with students who are behind, but I'm not primary trained. So I saw the opportunity to get a bit of primary literacy training. And that was actually really good. I met Jocelyn Seams, who also has a podcast.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Who is Jocelyn C?
She is she's a literacy expert.
Okay, cool.
That was actually really good. It was really informative, and I got some really good takeaways on what I can bring into my classroom to just help those students that are kind of lagging behind.
Yeah.
So I think that's the highlight. Was the highlight
That's
of my
pretty
week.
cool.
Anyway, how's
How's
your
my week? But before I get into my week, I want to ask you, have you seen a famous person in person?
Yes, one, two.
Okay.
Two. My wife is just telling me off camera that there's actually two.
Okay.
So the first, I'm going to use the second one because
All right.
the first one's not interesting.
Sorry, whoever that first
I'm
person
sorry. You shall remain nameless, and you're not watching this anyway. Ben Foltz. I've met Ben Foltz.
Who is that?
Ben
I'm
Foltz.
really bad with names. I definitely probably have seen this person.
Ben
but...
Foltz. You have to look him up. He's a very talented musician.
Okay.
He's one of my wife's favorites, and I got tickets. I got like the backstage tickets.
Meet and greet.
Yeah, for his Paper Planes tour for her birthday, and so we got to meet Ben Foltz, and he's a cool dude. He's a really cool dude.
That's really cool because my weekend, it was Gabby's 30th birthday, so we were in Melbourne. And for our anniversary, that was in April, Gabby, as a surprise, booked us to a show called Phil Rosenthal Tour or something. Anyways, have you seen the show Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix?
No.
Have you seen the show Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yes.
So Phil Rosenthal is the one who wrote Everybody Loves Raymond.
Really?
Yes. So he has a show on Netflix called Somebody Feed Phil, where he just travels around the world, different cities, and he eats good food. And he is the most wholesome person on the show. And he was doing a tour, and he happened to be in Hobart last weekend.
Yeah.
And Gabby had booked this for us to go as an anniversary present. But when we were in Melbourne last weekend for Gabby's birthday, I bumped into him in the lobby of the...
No way.
He was staying at the same hotels. And it's weird because when you see a famous person, my instinct was just to go to him and be like, hey, Phil. But he doesn't know who I am.
Can you imagine somebody randomly coming in and be like,
I know.
Hey, Josh.
I know. Exactly.
Hi. Yeah.
But I just walked up to him and Gabby was super excited. And I was like, Phil, it's Gabby's birthday. She's a big fan. I'm a big fan too. And then he wished her happy birthday. And that was really exciting, you know, to meet him in person. He was with his son, who seems to be a really cool dude as well. And funny enough, before the show on Saturday, we went to Pitsy to have dinner. And then I look and it was Phil and his son before the show. So I was like, I can't believe it. It's you again.
You should have, did you like go up to him again? Like, Phil.
I was like, no way. And he was like, yes way. And then he looked a bit confused. For some reason, I thought he remembered me, but he meets so many people.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't remember me, but his son did. And his son was like, yeah, we met them at the hotel. In Melbourne.
That's nice.
That was really sweet. And we went to a show. So that was my highlight. My week was really good
That's awesome.
because of that.
Man, that's way more impressive than my story. I'm glad I didn't share the story of my first celebrity meet.
You did, but we'll cut that out.
Yeah, we've
I didn't
actually
know
cut
who
that
you
out.
was, just so you know.
Yeah, for the record, this is the second take.
Yeah, the framing wasn't right. Jacob was leaning too much. Anyway, back to
Gonna remember to
back to
actually sit
this
up.
back to this episode.
New segment. This is all gold, Gabby. Don't cut any of it out. What were we saying?
We're
This
talking about-
fortnight in AI.
Yes.
Yes. So new segment. We thought we'd share some news, like what's going on in the AI space, just to keep you guys up to date, and also try and focusing on not just what's interesting, but what might be like positive.
Yeah.
Because
there's so
golly,
many
there's
negative
so
things.
much negative.
Yeah.
So many negative things.
Yeah.
In the world. The first one, I love this story. I absolutely love that this is a thing. Have you ever heard of Anguilla?
No.
So it is a tiny Caribbean territory, about 16,000 people live in Anguilla.
Caribbean islands off the coast of the US.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a while back, we're talking like ages ago, early days of the internet, you know how Australia has .com.au attached to things? Countries all have their country code. Anguilla's country code is .ai.
Oh no. That's insane. So they didn't choose it. They just got
They just got assigned it.
Yeah. Okay.
Years ago.
Oh my God.
And so, as you can imagine,
yeah,
OpenAI shows up on the scene. ChatGPT becomes famous. Suddenly, everybody's doing an AI business. What makes sense? .ai. So their national source of revenue was like for this particular domain. They were getting, I think, like tens of thousands a year. But as of 2023, they earned around $32 million US from domain registrations.
Oh my God. So what is it now? So that was when ChatGPT just became a thing, right?
So this is reported by, I think our source for this is Tech Radar, early 2026. So this year, the revenue is estimated to be around 70 million US.
This is like when the Arab countries discovered oil and they became rich. Almost.
Yeah, almost.
Almost. I mean, they only have 16,000 people, so I guess you could...
Except this asset doesn't exist.
Yeah, I know.
But you know what's happening? They're able to now provide all of their citizens with like free healthcare.
Oh, that's amazing.
And like education. So they're pumping that money into their citizens. So it's going back into the country. How good for Anguilla.
It is. All right. Update number 2. Mythos and AI hype.
Yeah, I'm going to truncate this one because there's something more interesting that I want to touch on.
This is still part of the update, right? AI update.
So update. So Mythos. So people who use Claude, which is a competitor to ChatGPT. So you've got ChatGPT owned by OpenAI. Claude is owned by a company called Anthropic. Claude has 3 models: Haiku, Sonnet, Opus, which I quite like as a muse. So Anthropic didn't release their newest model, Mythos, which is, again, in the line of like AI hype. It's like, this is the one.
Yeah.
We're not even going to release this to the public because it's so dangerous.
Oh, wow.
Like this is going to be the end of 0-day vulnerabilities. For the record, 0-day vulnerability is a security risk. So it was meant to be like the be all and end all. Again, right? GPT 3.5 was meant to be the be all and end all. So the long and short of it is they ran it on a very well-known code base called curl, which is really just how a lot of software kind of talks with each other across the internet.
Yeah.
Like everybody uses it. And it found one minor security risk.
Oh, okay.
But the takeaway was that it found one minor security risk because the AI tools that already exist that developers are using now are already quite good. And this is something I'd like to talk about in a future episode, is that often I think the value of AI is not in reaching AGI, but it's in being able to do the stuff that we're going to talk about today, where you've got like extraneous cognitive load that is keeping you from focusing on aspects of your work that you want to. And AI with the right infrastructure around it, like my teacher had, can help lift that.
Yeah.
Whereas,
and just so the people who probably don't understand these acronyms, what does AGI is general intelligence?
Yes. So artificial general intelligence,
yes.
Which means nobody knows
can
what it
think.
Means. Well, nobody really knows.
Oh, okay,
it's either it's either the Matrix or, well, it's the range between AI being able to do things better than humans, but still being AI, or AI being a machine god, right?
Okay.
So no,
We don't know
it
yet.
keeps changing. I swear in the last like 4 years, it's changed definitions.
Yeah, okay.
But AGI is just code for super, 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 super smart, can start to kind of be its own entity,
Yeah,
I guess
okay.
is probably the shorthand. Point is, we're not there yet.
Yep.
We're not there yet. It was just more hype. This week, the battle of the giants, Elon Musk versus Sam Altman
Finally.
in court. They
Okay.
wrapped up closing arguments, I think 2 days ago.
Wasn't Elon Musk one of the founding members of OpenAI?
Yes. So Elon Musk put a lot of investment into OpenAI when they started up. To cut a long story short, he left the company. OpenAI then went from being nonprofit to spinning off a for-profit organization attached to it, and Elon was suing them for abandoning the original nonprofit vision.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
Who won?
we don't know yet,
Oh, okay.
or at least I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But we're gonna find out. And honestly, looking at the trial unfold, it's just rich people lying to other rich people lying, and who knows, man.
Yeah.
If you're talking to anybody this week, say, "Hey, Grok versus OpenAI," and you'll sound really smart.
Anyway, coming back to the main discussion, AI basics, better basics using AI.
Yes. So we mentioned in the opening that we're not just looking at how can AI save time, but what time should AI save?
I think the general discussion, whether it is in education, whether it's outside in the corporate world or wherever, you think about AI use and straight away people think it's going to make you 10 times more productive.
Yeah.
Right. But then as we discussed in our previous episode, it's about how well you can provide context to the AI model that it generates a better result or a worse off result, right?
Yeah.
So I think whether AI is good or bad boils down to how good are the basics? How good are you prompting it? How much do you understand it? Am I right in saying that? Or
yeah. So there's the question of, is AI good or bad in terms of, is it a good work or does it produce good work? And that's a question about infrastructure. Have I told you about the Loom?
No. Loom as in the software Loom?
No, Loom is in like the Loom.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, so go back decades.
Okay.
Maybe even hundreds of years.
Okay.
You make fabric on a loom.
Oh, okay.
You weave, you weave fabric. And you can get some really intricate patterns based on how you control the threads.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of skill and a lot of training to be able to run one of those. The very first, what you could argue is the very first computer program, in effect, like binary code program, was like a punch card that would allow anybody to just slip it on a loom, and then it would make these amazing patterns. You needed zero skill.
Wow. Okay.
Right? You're effectively programming a loom. And there were problems. There were problems when this technology came out, is that sometimes holes would be misaligned. Sometimes a punch card would tear. Sometimes somebody put in the punch card upside down. And the answer wasn't, oh, well, punch cards are bad. The answer was, what infrastructure can we put around this?
Or guardrails that
guardrails that would help to actually make the output more reliable. And so,
and minimize the downside risk or errors that it could generate. Yep.
So you create standards. You start using like thicker paper. You have a standard punch card size.
Yep.
You have a thing saying which way to put it on. And that, like, overnight removes the bug. And you can trace that issue across the development of technology.
Yes.
And I think AI is kind of the same. We're at this stage now where we've got this technology, and you can see some amazing examples of where AI does phenomenal work. You can see some examples where AI just kind of haunts your dreams and you go, oh, gee, I hope this isn't the direction we're going.
Yeah.
And often the examples of good work being done through AI, it's the context management and the infrastructure put around the model that allows it to actually be constrained in a way that produces good output. So there's better basics in that way. How do we actually use AI well? And part of what we're doing with my teacher ed is creating an infrastructure
and put
around
the guardrails in.
Yeah. So the teacher doesn't have to like build that scaffolding themselves each
Yeah.
time that they open up the app.
Yeah.
But then there's better basics in the sense of the work itself.
Mm.
So there's AI doing work, and then there's AI doing the work. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is how do we make it so that we're using AI in a way that it is working on the right things,
Yes.
and the teacher is still closing the loop on what they're doing.
And not just taking whatever the AI generates as gospel and going, this is it, this is correct.
When I was thinking better basics, there's some things that teachers do that are very like basic things that really move the needle in terms of learning that can be enhanced with AI.
Mm.
And so that is what I wanted to talk about with AI helping with better basics, is how can we make it so that we can use AI to improve the basics of teaching rather than pulling us away from good teaching, which is a real risk.
Yeah, yeah. So how does all of this that you've mentioned relate to actual teachers in the classroom?
Yeah. I'll give an example of like when it doesn't work.
Mm.
Let's say, like even with my teacher ed, you go in, you just have it prepare a lesson plan on like a random topic. You don't put any information about like differentiation that you need. You don't give it any information about like scope. And it'll generate a lesson plan. It doesn't know your students. It doesn't know where you are in your sequence. If you then take that lesson plan on the first generation, you don't iterate on it, and you try and run that in the classroom, it's not going to work, because you as the teacher have not applied your professional mind to your students, to your sequence. You haven't actually brought your teaching to bear on this lesson plan. And so it's generated a lesson plan like that, but it's not improving your teaching.
So what I'm hearing is you still need the brain of the teacher to essentially help work alongside with the AI model, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's my teacher, whatever tool you use, to be able to generate that result. Like everyone has tools, right?
Yeah.
Like teachers have access to Google, Wikipedia, whatever. They could literally go in, type something, find a lesson plan if they needed to.
Yeah.
Or they could write down a lesson plan from scratch on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Or use my teacher aid.
Yeah.
So these are all different tools that exist.
Yeah.
But then one helps them get to the end result much quicker, i.e. my teacher aid or AI, but only if they know how to use it correctly.
Yeah. So there's a study done by MIT. And I think it was in pre-printing when I read it. It took 4 sessions. It took 3 groups of people, of college students. One was allowed to use AI to write an essay. One was given a search engine to use to write an essay. And one was given essentially just a text editor and told, good luck, write an essay.
Yep.
And they did 3 sessions, 1, 2, 3. And what they found was, well, you probably guess exactly what they found, is that the AI group had kind of 0 sense of ownership. They did like an EEG scan of their brains to see the brain activity while they wrote the essays. And these were essay questions that you didn't really need research for, but you could use research for, to be fair to the brain-only people. Over the 3 sessions, they wrote 3 different essays, but developed the ideas. The AI group didn't have any sense of ownership. Their brains were like, not inactive, but the only part of their brain that was really active was their motor functioning. So they're typing, they're thinking about what they were typing.
That's so fascinating.
In terms of their learning, like they didn't really progress from essay to essay. And then on top of that, it was very predictable what they were going to write because everybody kind of wrote the same essay. The search engine, they had a higher sense of ownership. They learned more, their ideas developed more, but interestingly, their ideas were all quite the same as well. So the search engine kind of controlled the output in some way. The brain-only people, massive growth in learning. Their brains were very active. The essays at the beginning weren't as good as the essays at the end, but they did improve. They started out and they hadn't really developed the thought. The next one, they developed it a bit more. So it shows that there's a long-term change in their understanding, which is learning. And then they had a full sense of ownership. And on top of that, it was more varied from individual to individual.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this up is they had a 4th session where they took the AI away from the AI group then they gave AI to the brain-only group to see what would happen.
Ooh, okay.
The AI-only group that no longer had AI tanked.
Of course.
They almost,
Because they were so reliant on this thing.
yeah, they're so reliant. They almost like couldn't write an
Think.
essay. Yeah, they couldn't
They
think.
couldn't think
right?
anymore.
And then
Yeah.
they just wrote a bad essay.
Yeah.
The brain-only group that then was given AI, not only did they write a great essay, but on the EEG, like their brain activity actually increased, actually improved.
It's almost giving them extra scaffolding of sorts to go.
Yeah, well, it's because now they're developing ideas that they've created.
Yep.
And what makes that relevant here is that the takeaway lesson is brain first, AI second.
Mm.
And so you want to make sure, when I say like you don't want AI to close the loop, what it means is you as a teacher are going to be planning, you're going to be teaching, then you're going to be assessing, and you're going to be reflecting. And you want to make sure that your reflection connects back to your planning. There's this cycle.
Yeah.
And if you let AI take the reins significantly in any of those stages, you're letting AI close that loop. You want to be the person in the driver's seat.
Yes.
And
you want to be controlling the whole process.
Yeah.
And overseeing it rather than just letting AI do the whole thing. With AI use, that is a risk, inherent risk with the use of AI, right?
Huge.
And I think most teachers would fall into the trap, especially when they're burnt out. Like you said in one of our earlier episodes, when teachers are already so burnt out, working X number of hours beyond what is acceptable, if a tool exists out there that's going to help them, they're going to go, you just do it.
Yeah.
So not blaming the user in this case, but the importance of student outcomes is something that teachers need to think about. And also, these outcomes are so contingent on teachers really knowing what they're doing.
Have you heard of Claude slides yet?
No.
Do you want to know about Claude
Yes,
slides?
please. Tell me.
So Claude makes PowerPoint files like better than GPT did. I haven't tried to get GPT to make PowerPoint slides in a while, but without your infrastructure, Claude slides look like Claude slides. And Claude slides are effectively, it's like somebody put dark mode on PowerPoint, the slide, blue background, bunch of different colors for all these boxes, text heavy, and they're just laden with information. Claude slides are just content. So recently at my school, we've been exploring having AI help with like generating slides based on content. And you can see in the first week, everybody's slides look exactly the same and just dense. Another friend of mine, Paul, said he was at a conference recently and there's a speaker that had Claude slides.
Oh, no.
And you go, if you know, you know. So now you know.
Yes.
I'll show you some Claude slides after the episode. So how do you avoid Claude slides is the question. How do you use AI? Don't go to AI and say, great, generate this lesson. Boom. All right, now create PowerPoint slides for me. Boom. Great. Now I'll take that and I will learn what AI has produced for me as I try to teach it to the student. What you want to do is you want to let your brain have the ideas. I like to have a notebook and then I'll write out my ideas for the lesson. I'll essentially plan the lesson on Scratch. And then I go into my AI assistant, tell it what I want to do in the lesson, and then it does the formatting for me.
Understood.
And then I take that formatting, I put on the student-facing side. I then have some structured notes that get produced out of that I have as cues. And that is a time save.
Yes.
In that I've created an infrastructure. It's taking my thoughts, and now I don't have to do what is called in cognitive load theory, extraneous load. I now, in my teaching, am operating under a germane load, which is just the appropriate cognitive loading that you want to bring to your work.
And I think that ties in really well with what our vision for My Teacher Aid is, because at the moment, even though tools exist in the market, teachers don't really understand how to use these tools. And they don't have the time to really learn a new tool anyway. One of the things that we want to do, our vision rather, is how do we equip teachers with the right skills, similar to what you said, how do you use your brain first and then use the tool to generate the best possible outcome?
Yeah.
Right? Because the way I think about it, I'm not an educator, but the way I think about it is if I wanted to, or let's say someone wanted to get better at, eating and get healthy, go to the gym, all of that.
Mm.
They can go to ChatGPT or Claude and say, hey, give me a plan that can help me get healthier.
But you still need to do it.
You still need to do the work. You still need to go to the gym or do push-ups or whatever, go for a run. You still need to stop eating those donuts. And you need to sleep better and do all the basics that we know.
Yeah.
The basics make the most difference in whatever you need to achieve.
Well, and for teachers, the basics are mostly like mental. Well, there's mental, but then also the mental and practice. Some examples that I can give aside from, say, lesson planning. So you've got formatting, which I think is something that it can be done well with AI. It's you taking your mind and applying it to the problem, and then you give the solution and the product to AI to polish up in a presentable form. But then there's other moves, other practices like a do now or an exit ticket. It's a high value teaching practice that the do now helps to set the stage of a classroom so that your students come in and it's not just a zoo.
Yes.
I welcome them in, and then there's immediately something on the screen for them to do. I'll point over here. There's TV over, but like, so on the screen, they're sitting down. There's something on the screen that says do now, and then it's a task. It takes 5 minutes. Right? It's a 5 minutes and a timer that I put on the screen. 5 minutes, do this now. They sit down and they're doing a task. And what they're not doing is they're not chatting. They're not making a bunch of noise. They're not like flicking each other's ears or playing quarters, which is something that
or they're not doing 6, 7.
Don't even. And what it does is it sets the tone behaviorally, but then it also does this thing called retrieval practice. And it offers students an opportunity to refresh their minds on what they've previously learned
and get into that atmosphere of learning.
Which is how you build learning is spaced retrieval. So the do now is an activity that has them writing, it has them retrieving information that we've already looked at. And what you can use AI to do is you have your sequencing, you have you know what you've already covered. You can say, all right, let's say I have a unit plan. I can go into AI. I can say, all right, generate 10 do now activities across these 10 weeks or across these 3 weeks or however many lessons you have. And it can generate, with the right principles in place, some fantastic tasks. And you just saved yourself time in thinking through, all right, now which elements of this need to be pulled out so that you, as a default, are walking into a classroom with a do now activity. You still need to be the one that has the flow in mind. When it produces those things, you need to look at them and say, all right, yes, this is going to be the activity that I use. This is going to be something that is good for them to be retrieving. It connects to that irreducible minimum. If you struggle with your class introductions, if the students are just kind of, it's difficult to grab their attention, incorporate a do now, you'll get like 70% of the way to a good start. It's a great practice. And similarly, the exit ticket is kind of the reverse, where it's a task that is done at the end of class and students don't get to leave until they've done the exit ticket. And what it is like a do now, but for the lesson they've just done. They have to then generate an artifact that shows that they have done some learning. And then you can review those and it gives you an idea. You don't like go through and mark them and give feedback, but you give feedback in that it helps you control the flow that the lessons go in. Because you might see, oh, we've got a misconception here. Let me target that in the next lesson.
And you can also tell which student really understands certain concepts and which student doesn't. And potentially it could also lead to, you, if you had the time, provide a bit more attention to a student if needed.
So that's one example. And I think where AI kind of helps with that is it lets you go in with a collection of things. It lets you pre-plan something so that you're not stressing at the beginning of the class, like, oh, what do I do for the do now? Right? It's that cognitive load that's now going to be distracting you from the lesson at hand.
So this helps you alleviate that and then just go in with a sequence, a plan, and just go.
Another thing, differentiating text. I had a class where I wanted a reading that didn't exist. I wanted to explain a concept well at my students' levels. I had 2 academic texts tackling 2 different angles of this subject. And I wanted my students to be able to access that, but it was pitched too high. I took those texts, I brought them into my AI workflow, and I said, look, I want to pull out these concepts. I want it to be at this reading level and in this formatting. Do that. And there you go. You have an accessible text. And AI now can produce, it used to be in the early days of AI, you can get like 2,000 words. Now you can get like quite a decent reading, almost like a multi-session reading out of AI by synthesizing 2 different texts. That saves time because I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
otherwise.
exactly.
I simply wouldn't have done that. I would have had to find some other way. It would have taken more time to figure out how we're going to get around that. Or my students just wouldn't have had that quality of a resource going in.
Yeah. It's almost like saying if the computer is an axe, AI is more like a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Would you say that? So
Explain.
end up with the same you could end up with the same outcome, right? So for example, you can use an axe to cut a tree down.
Yep.
Yes, it'll take a lot of muscle power.
Yes.
And standing there for a few hours.
Yeah.
Depending on how strong you are.
Yes.
You could do the same thing with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Quicker, but you need to really know how to use a chainsaw.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Because chainsaws are dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're wanting to cut a tree down, either will get you there, but one is going to get you there shorter and with less fatigue.
Yes.
So it's not.
You don't need as many muscles.
Don't need as many muscles. So that's also, I think, part of the sell is that you're not just saving time, you're also saving cognitive effort.
Yes.
And I think the cognitive effort you save feels like time saved because you have more energy at the end of the day.
Yes.
You have more enjoyment of what comes after the workday.
Yes.
You also potentially can be more efficient with the other work you do because that effort is saved. But what is the important thing in chopping down a tree is the result that the tree gets chopped down. You still need to know how to chop down a tree and you need to do it right. You need to make sure that you start at one angle, that you put in that little like wedge shape.
Yes.
So that while you're chopping it down, it doesn't fall on you.
Yes.
And you can do that with both instruments. On top of that, with this tool that saves you time, maybe there's a bit of danger involved, right? You can, if you're not careful with a chainsaw, bad things can happen. And we're going to actually talk about that in our next episode, what bad things can happen with AI.
Yeah.
And how to not fall into that. But at the end of the day as well, I think when it comes to teaching, when you're using this chainsaw, it is the act that is the important thing and the result and what is necessary for that. But then to put another kind of layer onto it, there's something that I tell my students a lot when we're taking notes, is that good note taking is not about the notes produced. It's not about the artifact. It's about the act. So it's the act, not the artifact.
Yes.
What makes you learn is the process of taking good notes.
Yes.
The notes are an artifact that's created through that process, but you are learning when you generate.
Because you can be in a
notes.
classroom and just randomly start writing everything that is being said and not really grasp
You're
anything.
grabbing nothing.
Yeah.
Versus, this is what I do in my classroom, is we read through a reading together. At the end of each section, I tell them to stop, close your books or put away the reading, pull out your notebook, summarize what we just read. And it's not because I want them to have a summary later to reflect back on, although if you do it the right way, you now have a study resource, but because, well, what the evidence shows is that summarization process of retrieval plus generation creates learning. And so it's the act of summarizing, it's the act of putting those notes together that is the valuable thing. And for a teacher, it's the act of creating the lesson in your mind and knowing your learners, reflecting on what you've done, knowing what your resource needs to be. That is the valuable thing, so that you can go into the classroom and actually execute it well because it is in your brain. Now, the time that it takes to, say, write up a worksheet from the idea you have and format it, if you even bother to format it, or to put the slides together. I hate making slides. PowerPoint is just annoying.
Slides.
Yeah, cloud slides. But you can give that aspect of it, the execution cost can be given to AI.
Yes.
And it's the important part of using your brain and applying it to the learning and the teaching and learning process. That is the valuable thing. It's the act. It's not the artifact. It's not the worksheet or the slides themselves.
Yes.
It reduces the cognitive workload while still producing a rich lesson.
Mm.
So we've talked a lot about closing the loop. We've talked a lot about axes and chainsaws.
Yes. The way I look at all of this is I see my T-Trade as a chainsaw that provides the high quality artifact. But you still need the teacher bringing in that high quality act.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, you're not going to get the results you need. SOS call out.
Wait, ready?
Come on.
Ready? I got an opening for this segment.
Yes.
SOS call out. Woo, woo. We've got some traction on the socials, and we are so excited. We are so excited to answer some of your questions. So from our comment section, I'm so excited for this. We've got a few questions here. Let's start at the top. So the first one says, why does he have an American accent?
Because you're American.
I wouldn't have described your accent as American.
No, I think they're talking about you.
Oh, me!
I don't have an American accent. I have an Indian accent, bro.
I've never heard your Indian accent.
This is my Indian accent.
Oh my goodness.
Correct. So as we were saying,
I do have an American accent. But it's not my fault. I grew up in America. But I've lived here now for 15 years. I can't really change my accent. I've tried, but this is what I have.
I like it. It sounds cool on a podcast as well, because most podcasts are American.
We get that authenticity.
Yeah, that authenticity. Yeah. So one of the other comments we had, as a year 12 teacher, the marking is also extremely time consuming, taking up all my holidays. I'm relatively new to teaching, and I work many more hours now than when I was in leadership positions in the corporate world for considerably less remuneration.
I feel you, man.
Because you're a lawyer.
Yeah, I was a lawyer. I work way more hours now.
And in law, it's interesting. You probably have billable hours. So every extra hour you work, you got paid for it.
I was on salary, but I had to account for my time rigorously. Yeah. Because the firm was getting paid for that, for sure. But man, I feel you. You go into your holidays and you're marking throughout them. In a future episode, I want to share something that I've started trying to save time have some like evidence-based research behind it, called a whole class feedback sheet. Because part of what we want to do as a podcast is not just talk about my teacher aid in AI, but what are some like teaching practices? How can we focus on the act as well as the artifact? And so that was definitely something that I've found already as I've started to implement it to be very helpful. And I'm anticipating as I continue to use it and get better at it, it's going to align with what the evidence shows, that it does save time.
Yeah, and fingers crossed it'll be part of my T-Trade at some point in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at the artifact producing stage of it, for sure. Oh, this was a nice comment from an appreciative parent. Truly nobody is working harder than my kid's year 2 teacher. Even in a world where she was only working 30 hours a week, I'd still think she deserves school holidays off after 9 weeks of teaching 25 7-year-olds how to be a person. I'd give that lady bail money. I'd give that lady bail money as she asked.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that this parent has pointed out a significant part of the job, which is
managing the student.
Managing 25 children. Okay, so a colleague of mine once said, like, in no other profession are you preparing and running like 4 tutorials a day in front of a total of like 100 students across the day. And you're just expected to be on and like excellent. Like you have to be switched on the entire time. You have to control their attention and their behavior. And on top of that, you have to be aware of pastoral concerns. Yes. And then you also have to get them to learn stuff. And if you're in secondary school, they're hormonal. And
everyone, clap for the teachers out there, man. You gotta clap for these teachers, man.
Primary teachers, especially, I feel like there's a separation, right, between primary and secondary teachers. Yeah. And what I find is primary teachers often look at secondary teachers and like, I don't know how you can do it. Secondary teachers look the other way and do the same. Yeah. I reckon it's easier to go from primary school to teaching secondary than it is to go the other way around, because primary teachers have to be so switched on with behavioral management
and patient as well,
and so patient. Yeah, so patient. Like I love my daughter. I love my little 2-year-old daughter, and I can be patient with her. I don't know if I could be patient with
With other
that
people's
many like
kids.
young children. Like
Yeah.
young children. My natural habitat is secondary, senior
Yeah.
secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you. It really does highlight those challenges that go beyond just the time that it takes to do stuff. So that concludes our
Episode
third
3.
episode. Thank you for those of you who are listening, especially Gabby and my wife who listen and up the numbers for us while we're on this early stage of the podcast.
Yes.
I can make this joke because this is the part of the podcast that is podcast and
Yes.
not on the short form.
Yes.
But thank you also to those of you who are watching on the short form.
Yes.
And yeah, it's exciting,
Yeah.
and we really hope to be a blessing and a help.
Thank you, fam. Peace.